you know, had yesterday off and started week 2 of preseason camp. And sometimes you can get in camp, and I think you can have a monotony to it. You can have kind of a lull in practice or a lull where you're at, and you know, just try to change some things up as far as we went to did some stuff yesterday with the team and some team activities there, and then had the day off and kind of refresh and restart. And it's a big week for us, and a big week. We got to make the next step. We got our first scrimmage this Saturday, and we got to see how much we can get in and get ready to roll. You know, right now, I see a lot of coaches out there coaching their tails off, but we're kind of walking them through and holding their hands a little bit. At some point, I got to kick those guys off the field and put them on the sideline, and we got to line down and play. And we'll get an opportunity to do that a couple times this week. I think we'll do it on Wednesday in portions of practice, and then do it on Saturday in a scrimmage situation. So big week, excited about it, and looking forward to seeing those guys taking the next step. And we got to, and I thought the energy was really good today. We watched a video this morning from the UConn basketball coach, Gino, and he was talking about, you know, you can't get to the Final Four and play at this level if you always practice at this level. And I thought our guys did a really good job practicing, you know, trying to practice at a higher level. There's mistakes, and there's corrections we had to make. It's our first day in the red zone, our first day with some other schemes in, so we got to get those cleaned up. But if the energy level and the effort level is always there, you got an opportunity to go correct those things. So really proud of the guys doing that, and we still got a long ways to go, but I think we are moving in the right direction.
Coach, how's the competition at center going? You know, losing the cards in the spring, just how's that going?
Yeah, you know, I'm really proud of both those young men right now, Darius Bell and Bryce Weaver. You know, the main two kind of rotating in with the 1s and 2s right now. Drew McCullough's kind of playing some 3s. But both those guys are doing a really good job. Panda Askew has played in there some. And Panda may be having as good a camp as anybody in preseason, a local guy here from Greenville. But Bryce and Darius, not only what they're doing on the field, but what they're doing from speaking up and taking ownership and helping run the old line and making the calls. And you know, Darius, just seeing those guys grow from the spring. In the spring, I was really worried about that position coming out, and we still got to move some bodies, move guys around, and do some things and handle some stuff there. But I think we've taken a step, and we got to continue to take a bunch more. But we do have some good competition there. I think, you know, sometimes when you don't have competition, you can kind of sit back and just kind of, hey, you know, I'm just got to worry about me. But when you got somebody on your heels chasing you, it makes you, you know, whether you're running a race or whatever, it makes you run faster. And right now with Darius and Bryce, we have that going on. And we have that, you know, in several positions. And I think, you know, Panda's another good example. Him and Kyle Long are pushing each other. Panda is playing at a, you know, first team level right now. And it's pushing Kyle and vice versa. And if we can do that at every position on our football team, it will help us grow.
Putting the pads on Saturday, did you see a difference in some? They say, you know, you separate the men from the boys when you put the pads on. You see any of that?
Yeah, you know, as the old linebackers coach, old defense coordinator, you know, when you put the pads on, you want everything to be perfect. You want it to be game ready and physical and all that kind of stuff. And you know, you're always disappointed when it's not. So I was, you know, I would say if there was a group out there I was, you know, happy with, it was the O-line. Defensively, we got to kind of bow up and do some things there, but we got to grow. You know, we got a chance possibly 8, 9 seniors start on that side of the ball, but some of them will be their first starts. I mean, they're older guys, but they're inexperienced guys. I think, you know, we got to continue to get reps in practice, and we did that today. We attacked it, and you know, we'll put full pads back on tomorrow, and just had our shells in today, and we get a little live work in. So it was day one. You saw some guys, you know, step up a little bit, especially the old line there overall. But we got to kind of get them going more. You know, we're talented running back, but we still don't know how to drop our shoulder pad and run through some contact yet. So we'll continue to grow there and keep moving forward.
A lot of times in the spring, it seemed like the offense was winning on the outside, and the corners kind of stepped it up here in the fall. And you know,
there's pretty good wideouts out there. You know, that's a good and a bad, right? You got some guys out wide that can go get it done and go get it, and then you know, they challenge the defense and they make them work. And you know, I think, you know, some of those guys in defense, they're stepping up and starting to do their job over there and starting to understand, you know, leverage and technique and fundamentals and where their help is, and you know, also who they're going up against as well, and make sure they stay on some top of stuff. So just pleased with that group overall, and I think we've got a lot of good competition in there, and we got to continue to push those guys. And I think there's 10 guys in there that, you know, we went through our personnel yesterday and our depth charts, and kind of, you know, knowing that next Sunday it'll be a totally different conversation where those things will move and go through. But as you go through that corner room, We got to continue to grow. I think we do see some positives in there that could step up and take place, but we got to continue to grow in there overall as a room.
What are you seeing from the receiver room, specifically Jaquez Petaway?
Yeah, Jaquez, it just feels more comfortable this, camp than it did in the fall, in the spring. Going through the spring, you're looking at new terminology, getting to know your teammates, getting to know Coach Roberts, and now you can tell he feels comfortable out there, and you see him making plays. He looks a lot more like Winston Wright right now than he did in the spring, and that's the point we got to get to.
Speaking of the receivers, Coach Roberts, he brings the energy every day. Can you talk about just his impact on that room?
It's contagious, and I think his impact and the energy he brings, his coaching style, and just and I said this yesterday in our personnel meeting. The receiver room has the most energy of any receiver room I've ever been around. Just that group, and you can tell it starts with him. And it rubs off on the receivers, and pretty soon the receivers rub off on the tight ends, and it kind of becomes contagious to our offense, and then takes over our football team. And that's how every coach in our staff is that way. We want to play that way, so as coaches we got to be that way. And I think Coach Roberts is a perfect example of that, and that receiver group is a perfect example of that.
I know we've talked about Sam Dinka moving inside, but Jackson Barker, it seems like he's made that move pretty well too. How would you kind of evaluate him?
Yeah, he shows up. I think early on, Jackson started out in his career as a linebacker. He was a tailback safety in high school, so I think it's easy sometimes when you transition from safety to linebacker. When he first got here, did some good things. We were a little short of outside linebacker, moved him there for a year and a half, 2 years there, and played really well out there. And was a special teams demon last year, and had about 350 snaps on those units, and just moving him back to linebacker. And I think he's doing really good things, adapting really well. Smart kid, triggers, moves around, plays in space, can run, and I think he'll do a good job there for us. And we got to keep getting him to push and Sam to push. You got 2 new guys there. I thought DJ Johnson took a step forward today at linebacker. I saw him trigger. I was just bragging on him to the team there. He's starting to become today in practice, triggering around. And maturing a little bit, growing up like I hope he could, and taking that next step. And hopefully he can continue to do that. If he continues to do that, we can see a really good linebacker this fall.
Anything else? Thank you, Coach.
All good. Appreciate it.